Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. It's been a while since we've done this, but if you're hearing that tune and you're seeing our faces, that means only one thing. The start of the regular season is upon us. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be taking on the New York Jets on another road game. They got one home game for the season opener last year, but it's back on the road this year. How are you feeling, Nathan? How optimistic are you right now?
Well, we're not doing too bad, Daniel. It's good for another season of this podcast. I think this is year 3 now, correct?
Yes.
Of this show, of this podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's good to be back. It's been a long off season, but it's good that the season's here. I'm excited just in general that football's back. But in terms of my optimism, I feel pretty good going into the Jets week. I think that there's probably going to be a little bit of rust there. We're probably going to see that. That usually happens a lot the first quarter of the season. But I'm interested to see Justin Fields and what the Jets are going to have for him against this kind of new look Steelers defense a little bit. It's good with the story. Aaron going back to New York. Will Aaron have a game where Jet fans will look at and say, why couldn't he did that for us last year? Or will we see something like Justin Fields where we will be sitting back and saying, too bad the Steelers didn't bring him back?
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Just so like the story is interesting, but I feel overall pretty good. The Steelers know Justin Fields and really his main capability of being able to move, being able to use his legs. That's definitely going to be evident. But to be honest, the passing offense for the Jets doesn't scare me at all.
Yeah.
And I think the Steelers will be pretty well contained in that regard with Justin Fields. I expect there probably to be a good bit of some backfield work between him, Breece Hall, whatever they decide to do. But it's going to be good. It's going to see them good to see them back on the screen, and I'm pretty excited about it. I feel good about the game.
I do too, man. You know, I think that there's a lot of anticipation going on right now because we haven't seen so many players, missing the entire preseason where, the Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Johnny Smith, TJ Watt on the other side, Cam Hayward, and he was going through a little bit of a contract situation that still, we don't really know the true end result of that situation there. But there's been a lot of players who've sat out the entire preseason. There's been a lot of controversy over that. I know a lot of folks that watch the Pittsburgh Steelers would have loved to have seen the starters play for a few snaps, and it's probably more so for selfish reasons. But there is the argument that they are going in pretty cold as far as this is going to be the first time all of them together, especially on the offensive side, with a lot of new pieces and players in key positions. They're going to be on the field where it's going to be live action. Bullets are going to be coming in. It's no more, all right, you can, joint practice, but you can't touch the quarterback type of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's out the window. It's a actual game. And so, there's a lot of, questions about possible injuries that can be sustained by going in and playing a 60-minute football game like that in that manner without ramping up for it. How do you feel about it? Do you think that was a good move by the Pittsburgh Steelers to have just sat out those guys? As Aaron Rodgers said, it's not that big of a deal when it comes to preseason. Or would you have liked to have seen them play for at least a couple of drives?
I think offensively it would have been good just because you have such a handful of new guys there. And Aaron being 41 years old, I think it'd be good just to have him kind of have some in-game action there. I understand why they didn't. Aaron's 41 years old. Been doing this for 20 years. So I get it. He probably doesn't really want to play in preseason anyway. I don't really have too much concern with like TJ Watt because he sits out pretty much preseason every year. Cam Hayward, don't really have a concern. It's more so offensively because you're young. You have Aaron's going to have this kind of young offensive line in front of him. And some new targets and things like that. So I think that would have been good to be able to see at least a drive or two from that offense. But honestly, at the end of the day, when we look back at the Steelers preseason 2 or 3 years ago and everybody was so excited, I really could care less about preseason.
That's left a scar on many of us.
Yeah.
You know, that the Mr. Preseason, who's on his like 4th or 5th team, I think he's like one trade away from being the most traded player in NFL history. That's got to say something.
In 4 seasons. I think it's 4 teams in 4 years.
Yeah, and it's been trade after trade after trade, and so
Yeah.
I know there's been some players who have played on multiple teams, but they're specifically talking about traded from
Right.
one team to another. You know, still on his rookie contract.
It's crazy.
He's now with the Vegas Raiders. Kenny Pickett, that is. Do you think, just kind of going off topic real quick, do you think there's a future for him in this league for Kenny Pickett?
I think potentially as like a backup. Like he didn't really get any time last year with Philadelphia to show that he could be a capable backup. The Raiders, they needed a backup quarterback. They're probably looking like, okay, he has some starts under his belt. They really didn't have to give up too much for him. Cleveland, this is the one thing though, is that now I understand he hurt his hamstring or whatever at some point, but at the end of the day, when we look at it, Cleveland didn't have enough desire in him being the backup quarterback over 2 rookie quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of those rookie quarterbacks, one was a 3rd-round pick and the other was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
So that's not really a good look either on his part. But I'm not saying that he can't be like a journeyman backup or something like that. I mean, that's possible. I don't think that there's really been enough for him to really show that he can be somewhat of a backup quarterback for a while in this league. But if that opportunity is not there, I mean, I think his time might be thin, to be honest with you.
Does he carry the term bust on his forehead now? Is
100%.
that where we're at?
100%. I think we were there when he got traded from here. 100%.
Yeah. I thought that
100%.
him going to a team where he would have had an opportunity to be the starter. Him leaving Pittsburgh and going to Philadelphia, he had no chance.
Well, there's
of
no
being
shot,
the starter.
no. Unless you're his aunt, then you think that she thought he was going to start over Jalen Hurts.
That's true. That is true.
Moron.
And there was reports that he was looking sharper than Jalen Hurts in training camp. At least that's what some people were trying to say. And now he gets moved on to Cleveland that didn't have a starter, and getting shipped out again. I think it's an opportunity that he's had was completely blown. I mean, if you go back to last year, he stayed on. He would have played probably a good portion of the first part of the season because of the injury to Russell Wilson's calf, and instead he completely washed away his opportunity. Speaking of possibly washing away an opportunity in the quarterback position or in the quarterback room, how concerned are you that may have happened as well to a guy like Will Howard, who's been drafted in the 6th round? Missed the entire preseason, and the Steelers are anticipating on going out there and drafting a quarterback in the 1st round or early in the 1st round or sometime in the 1st round. Hopefully it's not early, but sometime in the 1st round this upcoming draft year. Has he ruined his opportunity as potentially maybe giving the Pittsburgh Steelers ideas of not going out there and drafting a quarterback?
Well, this is something I love from fans, and the Steeler fans aren't the only ones that do it. Whenever a team drafts a quarterback late in the draft and that quarterback does things well in the preseason, fans are going to think that guy should get an opportunity to be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just very rare when you find a quarterback late in the draft. You can look back at the last 10 years, and I think maybe you can name 3, maybe 4 guys that actually ended up becoming a legitimate starter for a team that were drafted in the 5th round or later. It just doesn't happen. And I think fans just need to relax and need to understand that there's a reason Will Howard was a 6th-round pick, number 1. Number 2, yes, it sucks he didn't get an opportunity in preseason to show some things, but the Steelers are also going to be with him as well, all off the field. And if there's any inclination for them that they really want to see what Will Howard has, he'll get an opportunity next offseason, but it's going to be highly realistic that they draft a quarterback in the 1st round. Even if Will Howard didn't get hurt, it was highly realistic they were going to draft a quarterback in the 1st round. There's not enough for a team to see or do for a third string 6th round quarterback to play in the preseason against 3rd and 4th string players. That's not enough. Brock Purdy, at the end of the day, got an opportunity because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt.
Yeah.
That's why. Brock Purdy, he was the last pick in the 7th round. Yeah, and Trey Lance. So Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt. And then Trey Lance came in to play and whatnot. And then Brock Purdy got his chance later in the season, that rookie year, and lit it up. So that's an instance where you have a guy jumping two spots to get an opportunity on the field and showed that. Now, that's not to say Will Howard can't do something like that, but it's just the likelihood is just super unlikely. Dak Prescott came in because Tony Romo got injured, and Dak Prescott was a 4th round draft pick. It's just when you look at the starters around the league, legitimate starters. I'm not talking about guys that come in and start for 6 games in a season or something like that. A legitimate starter that can start for you for 10 plus years. It's hard to see that be out of Will Howard. Not saying that he can't. I'm sure he's got a great drive and a lot of confidence, and he's been learning a handful of things. But even if he didn't get hurt, the likelihood was them still going to draft a quarterback in the 1st round.
Yeah,
now it's not to say that Will Howard can't, like, out of nowhere, pull something next year. It's not to say that, but I'm not one of these fans that, like, whenever the Steelers draft a quarterback in the 5th, 6th round, that this, that. Like, I heard the same thing about Josh Dobbs when the Steelers drafted him. Oh, he could be this, he could be that. No, the likelihood is that these guys are projected as just being a backup quarterback.
Yeah, but Josh Dobbs had he was a rocket scientist and stuff.
Yeah,
and so
he
had the intelligence, he had the brain.
He did.
And so, I wasn't one that thought he was going to be a starter in the NFL either. I'll just be honest. I haven't seen that in a while. A starter in the NFL. Or a franchise quarterback in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wasn't a fan of Kenny Pickett. I wasn't, I was a little bit, leaning towards Mason Rudolph having been maybe perhaps the best quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger's departure. But even at that, the bar is so low. It's, I guess Russ wasn't bad for a few games there, but once he got figured out, and the offense couldn't do anything. So
right.
It's good to see. Will Howard getting, his injury and stuff like that. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. And I don't get me wrong. I would love to see him get an opportunity to show what he can do, but it's just, people got to manage their expectations here.
Yeah, 100%.
There's going to be about 4 or 5 guys that go in the 1st round of the draft as of right now that are projected for quarterbacks. You have Cade Klubnik from Clemson. You have Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. Drew Allar from Penn State, Garrett Nussmeier from LSU.
I didn't like the first one. I didn't like the first one. I was watching the Clemson game with LSU.
He's good. He had a horrible game, but he'll be good though. His stock will be fine.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he just kind of didn't look very accurate. I mean, and I just didn't like the placement of the ball. Yeah. I thought the Garrett from LSU, I thought he played. I thought he positioned and played more accurately. Sellers, I was watching some highlights. I didn't watch the entire game, but that guy has some escapability. I'll say that, and I'm not familiar with any of these guys, but I don't watch college football, but I'm into it now because the Steelers are obviously going to be looking for a 1st round quarterback.
Yeah.
And
they have an opportunity, even if they got to trade up, do it. You got 12 draft picks.
Yeah. And I think that's the plan. I mean, that's the whole reason why they've been accumulating all these draft picks and not giving up, too much so that they don't have to forfeit their opportunity. There's one name you didn't leave in there, and I was kind of curious about it. Archie Manning. You no longer think he's a 1st round pick in this upcoming draft?
I just don't think he's going to enter the draft this year. I think there's too many people that are like, oh, tank for Arch or draft Arch, but like I genuinely don't think he's going to enter the draft. This is only his 1st year as a starter. And he was the worst quarterback out of all of them week 1. Doesn't mean that he can't, but he's not a generational quarterback either. He's not. He has the name to him. But I think he'll go next year.
There's a good possibility of that. I was watching this other guy who breaks down film and stuff like that and talks quarterbacks. I can't remember his name. And he was discussing that he thought that perhaps the way Archie was throwing the ball, that he may have had a shoulder injury. Do you think that maybe he was being possibly inhibited by some sort of injury. I think
Maybe.
that it makes sense because he was throwing the ball kind of weird. Like
Maybe.
his mechanics were way off. His the way he was swinging the ball, and even the guy, I'm assuming the guy had some sort of extensive knowledge. Maybe he was a former player. I'd never seen him before, but he was talking about how even on the shorter routes, he was really having to like put his all into it to get the ball out there. And a lot of the balls that he was throwing were kind of short, and that wasn't something that was seen, and that he might be dealing with something. If that be the case, wouldn't you rather sit versus hurt your stock, or what do you think would be the best move for him?
Well, he's young. Clearly, it was something where it wasn't serious enough where he couldn't play if he had a shoulder injury. Also, it's just definitely possible he just played horrible.
That's true too.
It's definitely possible. Sometimes people want to throw things out there like that, but there's nothing to confirm that he had a shoulder injury. So we kind of have to take it as that he wasn't hurt. But if you're going to kind of try to look at some things, or the way that he was throwing the ball, or like whatever his range of motion was, is possible, but it clearly wasn't enough for him to sit out or anything like that. Personally, he just wasn't good. He just wasn't good that game. I think that he'll be fine. But if something if this kind of continues in the next couple games, maybe something will be there, and then something will come out. But I don't think that he should be looked down on as like some bust or something like that. His first game, especially against the defending national champions. So he's young. He's only like 19, 20 years old. It is what it is. He can bounce back from that and have a really good season.
Yeah, very true.
I just don't think he's this generational quarterback. The thing is, all these people that hype up Arch Manning has never even seen a lick of the guy. They're just going off his last name. They haven't seen a single thing from him. So I think people need to pump the brakes on Arch Manning just because he shares that last name. Sure, that's great, but you need to pump the brakes. Honestly, you need to pump the brakes. So there's better quarterbacks in college football right now than him currently.
Mm-hmm. And so if you could choose, I know it's very early, there's only one game, but if the Steelers were on the clock and all the quarterbacks were available, where would you want the Steelers to go?
Out of the quarterbacks?
Yeah.
I like Lenora Sellers or Nussmeier from LSU.
Yeah, those are the two that I was looking at as well. I didn't like the accuracy of the Clemson kid. I didn't see anything special out of the Penn State guy. He had a lot of runs around him. He's got a lot of talent around him. But yeah, those two are the ones that kind of stood out to me week one of college football. So I'll be watching just because the Steelers are going to be trying to grasp one of these guys.
Gives you a reason to with some of these games. Yeah, this week's slate doesn't really look too good for a lot of these schools, just given the competition that they're facing this week. So this is kind of a crappy week, in my opinion.
Yeah. So back to Steeler news. Here recently, the Steelers signed Jaylen Warren. How do you like? He signed. It's a $17 million deal. He's got $5 million coming to him. He's got a $5 million bonus. Got some guaranteed money next year, about $5 million. What do you think about the contract and the signing? And what do you think about his workload that he's going to get this year? A lot of people were thinking before the season, including myself, or before preseason, that we're going to see a mixed bag there between him and Caleb Johnson in the first two downs of the series. First and second down, I thought, you might see Jaylen in there for a couple series, and then Caleb is going to come in for a series or two, and then Jaylen will come back in, and you might see, a little bit more of a something similar to what we saw last year with Najee Harris, and except switched around. I'm not so certain anymore. After the preseason, I'm not as confident in Caleb Johnson as that he's ready right now. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to be a bad running back. I think he's just not ready, and he's going to take his time. And I think his touches are probably going to go down a little bit. And the Steelers like to work in their rookies anyways. So I think he's not going to see as much touches early in the season. But what do you think? What do you think about the free agency or the contract extension and his role?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as you with what you're talking about. Definitely expect to see Kenneth Gainwell a little bit more than Caleb Johnson, I think. to start right now.
Mhm.
Jaylen Warren, it's fine. They need some depth there. They need some type of solidification there. So Caleb Johnson, obviously, they're hoping to probably be that future type of lead back-esque type guy for them. But locking Jaylen Warren down for another couple years, I mean, you need some type of what's I'm looking for? I know I said solidification, but you need a depth chart there at the end of the day. Jaylen Warren isn't a scrub or anything like that. Jaylen Warren can play. We'll see this season if he is going to be somebody that can kind of be capable as like a full-on legitimate starting NFL running back, or if he's just more so a guy that he's kind of been the last couple years, where he's been more so kind of coming in and out, getting a certain amount of snaps throughout each game, but he's not like a lead guy. So we'll see as the season goes on if he's somebody that's capable of becoming a guy like that. But Jaylen Warren definitely offers a lot of value for them. We've seen it the last couple years. A lot of people were tailoring for him to end up getting the number one job over Harris. Blah 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 blah. He can block. He's fast. He can receive the football as well out of the backfield. So there's things to like. It's just gonna be a matter of how do we see Jaylen Warren take his game as an actual starting running back in the NFL, which he hasn't been that yet. So that will be interesting to see. Kenneth Gainwell, definitely expecting him more so to probably get those RB2 snaps. Caleb Johnson, I'm not really expecting too much for him the first half of the season, to be honest, unless there's an injury. Mark, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in. Hope you're well, brother.
Yeah, I think you're right on par. The only concern I have is Jaylen putting the ball on the ground. You know, he came in for preseason against the Carolina Panthers in the last game and put the ball on the ground fairly quickly, you know, after a few touches. You know, he's a guy that didn't play a lot of preseason, but last year he was injured through the early portion of the year. I expect that the Steelers are going to want to utilize him more than they did last year. I think his touches probably weren't as high as they could have been because of the injuries that he was dealing with. I think he's 100% healthy this year. And so, I think he's going to get a heavier bulk. And as long as he can hold on to the ball, I think they're going to maintain that. I think if he starts putting the ball on the ground, I think that's when we're going to start seeing a healthy rotation.
Right.
You know, but yeah, it's all going to depend on that. But I'm good with the numbers too. I think that it's adequate. I think it says that he's not going to be a feature back. He's not making $10 million that Najee Harris is making, and Najee's not even a featured back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I think it's going to be it's good for the Steelers. You know, you know, another piece of, I guess, where all eyes are going to be on is going to be on the offensive line. You know, this offensive line also hasn't really, you know, Isaac Seumalo hasn't been there, but the rest of the guys have for all preseason. There was some question marks early in training camp with Broderick Jones, you know, on the left tackle side. He seems to have overcome his demons throughout preseason. Again, that's preseason, but you know, he is going up against another person in those games. So it's there's not a lot of a scheme involved, and so I assume that maybe perhaps he could be a target of some stunts and things of that nature that he may not have saw in preseason. But the physicality aspect is going to be just as real in preseason as in regular season for offensive linemen. And I thought he played fairly well during preseason. What do you think about the offensive line? Any concerns? Are you concerned about Isaac Seumalo's injury history as of recent, or you know, what are you looking forward to seeing?
I'm excited for the offensive line. I think Broderick Jones had a really promising preseason. He's gotten a lot of flack, understandably so, but also he's been somebody that was playing a side of the field that ultimately the Steelers didn't draft him for due to some injuries and some different things like that. Last year, he kind of had to move over to that. But the fact of the preseason that he had, because there were some things there, like in training camp, people were kind of throwing out, he's struggling, all this type of stuff. But being pretty formidable and pretty strong during the preseason and playing the way he did is very, very promising. Zach Frazier obviously is a beast. He had a great rookie year, and I think he's definitely expected and projected to be one of the top young centers in the NFL. Troy on the right side had a fine preseason as well, so it will be exciting to see him. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I think for me, if there's any type of concern, it's going to be is Mason McCormick a legit starter or not?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely going to be it. And I've heard he's had a pretty good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Him and Zach Frazier, they like to. Um, well, was it Aaron said that they like to tell him when he's wrong about certain things and correct him. It seems like they all got a really good relationship going on, which you kind of want to see out of your captain there in the quarterback position and his offensive line.
Yeah, and I think their depth's pretty strong there.
I do too. I like Ryan McCullum as a center backing up Zach Frazier. I thought he did well. Spencer Anderson, I believe, was it Spencer Anderson that came in? 74.
There's Calvin Anderson.
He's the one that came in for Isaac Seumalo. I thought he played all right throughout preseason. So, yeah, I think the depth there is pretty good. I think they might be still looking for that swing tackle, backup depth piece. But for the most part, I like their offensive line as well.
Yeah, 100%.
The passing game has been one of the biggest question marks for this team. We didn't see DK Metcalf out there. We saw a lot of Roman Wilson, and I think there was some good things from Roman Wilson. Aaron Rodgers has kind of spoke highly of Roman Wilson. Going up against the Jets, looking at the injury report, Sauce Gardner is dealing with a fibula. He was limited. He'll probably play, but he's dealing with some sort of leg injury, so that might hinder him on certain things. Not saying you may want to target him or not, but are you, how are you concerned? Are you concerned? Are you pleased? Are you satisfied with the passing options? And I say it that way because, I think the tight ends are going to be a huge component to the passing game, and maybe even more so than wide receiver 2 or 3. In fact, that, Johnny Smith might end up taking over that wide receiver 2 position. But Steelers didn't go out there and get another receiver for the second year in a row up to this point. So what do you think about the passing options for Aaron Rodgers?
They could be better. They could be better. I think the Steelers could have done a better job at trying to complement DK Metcalf. I was actually really interested to see a combination of him and George Pickens. I actually think that would have been really funny and interesting. But I'm fine with them moving off George Pickens. It is what it is. But I think that when you're in a situation where the Steelers are at, you need to kind of really get what you can ultimately get. I feel like Omar Khan's a guy that lowballs teams sometimes, just given what we have seen out there, given what the Steelers have kind of been involved in the last couple off seasons. He's done good things for the team, in my opinion, where hasn't been scared to move pieces. He hasn't been scared to overhaul different areas of the team, which is something that really didn't happen a whole lot before him. They've been pretty active in free agency the last 2 off seasons, so those have been refreshing. But I think from a trade standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody that is more so like kind of really staunch to work with and be a negotiating partner. I think that the Steelers should have did a little bit more with that wide receiver too. They didn't need to go out and get a Pro Bowl guy. They didn't need to go out and get a star. But if there would have been some, but also at the same time, depending on what they're looking for, what they're seeking, and things like that, it's not just this easy thing to go do that. Teams as well are staunch, and it's just a constant back and forth negotiating tactic a lot of times with things, and things most of the time just don't end up panning out, and teams don't end up moving guys. But with all these receivers around the league, there's definitely something out there the Steelers probably could have enticed another team to make a little bit more of a sweeter offer for some of these wide receivers that names have been out there as potential trade targets or somebody requesting a trade or something like that. Right. I'm not a big Calvin Austin guy. That's just my opinion. I think he's obviously very small. He's not a game-changing type guy. He has a role, but other than that specific role, he doesn't move me too much. That's just my opinion. I would be completely fine if they just let him walk in free agency. Looking at Roman Wilson, that's the guy that you want to be productive right there. Roman Wilson had some good flashes there in preseason. He looks healthy. He looks very, very quick with his route running looks really crisp. So the Steelers, if they feel comfortable with him and that he can take a year 2 type leap for a wide receiver, because they did draft him in the 3rd round. So it's not like some guy they drafted in the 6th round. They invested a pretty decent draft stock. Excuse me, into this guy. And sometimes guys just need an opportunity. So Roman Wilson, might end up producing to the point where it's like, yeah, you know what? He probably would have gave us the same type of numbers Romeo Dobbs would have gave us. Or he probably would have gave us the same type of same numbers that one of these receivers on the Texans would have gave us, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So I'm completely okay if they want to give a guy an opportunity. On paper, it looks a little weak, but if Roman Wilson can step in there and show that, yeah, he's going to be one of these wide receivers, not anybody special, but he can be one of these wide receivers that the Steelers, we know their track record for. That's going to be huge. Now, Jonnu Smith's the X factor here. Jonnu Smith they really were very keen on getting him this offseason. Obviously, they got him with the trade. He's a receiving tight end. The only thing that scares me is that the Steelers did another piss poor job last year utilizing their tight end position. They did. I think Darnell Washington was a waste of time last year when he shouldn't have been. Pat Freiermuth has been very underwhelming the last 3 seasons, outside his rookie year with Ben's last season. And that concerns me. How often are they going to have both these guys out there? Are both these guys going to be target B, target 1B, and target 2B, besides DK Metcalf? Personally, I think Jonnu's going to end up having a better year than Pat Freiermuth, to be honest. But if they can utilize both these tight ends and Jonnu Smith more so in that wide receiver 2/3 way, that can work. But it's really going to come down, in my opinion, not even Calvin Austin, really Roman Wilson's production here. Because if Roman Wilson doesn't produce, the Steelers are going to look absolutely, again, ridiculous going into another season without some solidification at wide receiver 2. If Roman Wilson steps up, then it'll be like, yeah, you know what? It's a good thing they held on to some of their draft picks because this guy's doing just as good as some of these Green Bay guys.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the key. So, I completely agree with you. Roman Wilson's going to be the deciding factor on whether it was a smart idea or not. Because at the end of the day, if DK goes down, I mean, you can replace wide receiver 2 with Jonnu Smith. I don't think you can replace a wide receiver 1 and be proficient and be efficient and have an offense that's running on time with a tight end as wide receiver 1. I don't think that's a good possibility. And
I agree. That's another great point too. If Metcalf is out for however long. Exactly.
And so, it's a bit of a risk, and you're going in with some other guys who, like Ben Skoranek, who I think he's played well. When he's played, he missed a lot of preseason because of an injury. Scotty Miller, he's another guy that's kind of similar to Calvin Austin. And so there's not a lot of diversity there in the wide receiver room. You have a lot of
everybody's under 6 foot, man.
Well, Skoranek and DK, but yeah, everybody else definitely is. Everybody's kind of tiny there. Those 3 guys are the same receiver in almost to a certain extent. DK goes down, it's who becomes your wide receiver 1 in that time frame. And
that's the thing. And it's like, and this is another thing too. If the Steelers, if they're doing well and they feel the need to acquire another wide receiver, depending who that's going to be, but if it's going to be somebody on the Mike Williams train, you might as well forget it and stop wasting your time. Because for some reason, whenever they acquire like somebody that's on that type of level, they don't do anything with them. They don't even give them any snaps on the field. Every time Mike Williams was out there last year, he made a play. Every time. He did. True. He made a catch, he made a play, and that ended up being his only target of the game. So that needs to change. 100% that needs to change. So it's going to be telling with this offense. I think Aaron has an arm, but he needs to stay upright. But I think there's an arm there still. With their running game, that's going to be a very key proponent for this offense. That's probably might be the most important part of this offense. Is Jaylen Warren being your lead back. You're probably going to see some Kenneth Gainwell early on until Caleb Johnson's ready to roll. I'm not really expecting this running game to be anything better than 20th in the NFL. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I like Jaylen Warren, but does he move me as a lead guy that's going to move a rushing attack? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Caleb Johnson, could he? Yeah, but probably not this season. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. But I think more so the promising part is a guy like DK Metcalf, who I think will probably end up having a career high in receptions, probably. And then you're going to have Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. That needs to be your focal. Those two guys.
Yeah.
That needs to be massively imperative for this offense. Even throw Darnell Washington in there. That needs to be massively imperative this year. I'm just not sure how much Arthur Smith's going to execute it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you there. It's but kind of going back to like throwing over the middle of the field in the last couple of years. I think you had, first and foremost, you had some quarterbacks that I think that Mike Tomlin didn't maybe feel confident in letting them throw over the middle of the field, i.e. Pickett, Trubisky, those guys. Then you had guys like perhaps Russell Wilson, who couldn't see over the line to throw over the middle of the field. And when it came to Justin Fields, I don't know, maybe it's a combination of him not being trusted to throw over the middle of the field, and also maybe him not being able to read defenses as well. But I do know that, like, for instance, after the Falcons game, Justin Fields' next gen stats look just like Kenny Pickett's and everybody else's, throwing out to the outside. And everybody was pointing that out last year. And I think the following week, their safety for the Falcons made an interception. And I think Tomlin had made like some sort of comment. You see, that's why we don't throw over the middle of the field. And so I think that that's kind of also a big component to why they don't throw over the middle of the field, is because the head coach is afraid of it. But I think when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I think he has to trust him a little bit more than the other guys. This guy comes with a little bit more credibility, comes with a little bit more of he's been there. He's been a guy, he's done it. He's won a Super Bowl. Russ has done the same, but Russ hasn't been the caliber of quarterback that Aaron Rodgers has been throughout his career.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is arguably a top 5 quarterback to ever do it. It just depends who you ask. 4-time MVP. Obviously, yes, he's 41. But if Aaron can be upright and even do what he did for the Jets the last 10 games throughout a 17-game season, the Steelers will have their best quarterback play they've had since 2018.
Yeah.
Might be asking a lot, but I think Aaron still has an arm. Aaron did really good things because he was 40 coming off an Achilles. The first half of maybe like the first 5-6 games of the season, he didn't look like Aaron from Green Bay, even later, like age 39, 38, 37. As that season went on, in the final 10 games, he actually had really good numbers. But the Jets are also just a mess. So if Aaron can give them play throughout the season that he did in those final 10 games with a more constructed roster and stable franchise and organization, the Steelers can be better offensively than what they've been for a handful of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he definitely has that possibility. I think that there's been some reports out there, and it was one day in particular, because I heard a few reporters report on it, that there was a situation where Rodgers was kind of falling back and off his back foot, just kind of flung it, and that he flung the ball harder and more accurate and harder than what Mason or Howard or Skylar Thompson had shown standing normal.
Right.
And so he still has the arm, he still has the ability. It's you're absolutely right. I mean, the mobility aspect of his game is probably taking a step back. He used to be somewhat mobile. He wasn't a running quarterback, but he had some escapability. He may still have some of that there. I don't think he's Ben at 40 years old. Ben at 40 was a little bit different. He was a lot more stiff, and so he was more of a statue. I don't think Aaron is that right now. I don't think he's as fast as he used to be, obviously, but I think he gives the Steelers a chance. And I was one of those guys that was a little bit selfish. I would have wanted to see him play in the preseason, but overall, I think that it's probably the best decision. He's played a lot of ball. He's got some similar ties with Arthur Smith. He's never played under Arthur Smith, but Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers have a LaFleur connection. And so, the West Coast offense and some thoughts about what they want to do are very similar to what Aaron has done in the past. So I think that this is going to be the best quarterback play we'll see based off of also the system that is around him. I don't think that Arthur Smith's offense was maybe necessarily the best fit for, like Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I mean, if you look at what he had, the success he had with Ryan Tannehill wasn't the mobile type of quarterback, the run around type of quarterback. He was a on schedule, on time, mainly because he wasn't a mobile quarterback. So he had to be on time, throw with anticipation. And I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be the best quarterback he's had for his offense in a long time.
I hope so. One thing I'm going to say, I honestly am hoping that I just don't see this year. And it's not because like I'm saying this, like I hope Aaron stays healthy the whole year, but I can't take another season of seeing more than one quarterback. I'm so sick and tired of seeing more than one quarterback on the field. I'm tired of it. We've seen it since the last 3-4 years. It's old. So I hope, regardless how the season goes, we just see Aaron the whole season.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm tired of seeing it, dude. I'm tired of seeing quarterback roulette.
Yeah,
it's old, and that's why they need to draft their quarterback next year in the first round. Even let's say Aaron plays well and he comes back another year, that's fine. But you need to draft a quarterback in the first round because enough's enough.
Well, I guess that might be the only positive thing to Howard. I guess his injury sidelining him and going on IR is because if he went out there and had the preseason that Skylar Thompson had, and there was any struggles by Aaron Rodgers, the Yinzers and the Steelers fans would be hollering for Will Howard from the stands.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is that if Will Howard had a preseason like that, he still would have been the third quarterback.
100%. He was not going to move up. He wasn't going to beat Mason Rudolph and not necessarily saying that he couldn't beat Mason Rudolph, but it's kind of the same thing when Mason Rudolph went through his quarterback challenge or whatever you call it, competition with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. He was clearly the best one out there, and yet he ended up last. And so
it's just how it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a business. It's the way football is, and I do know that if Howard had gone out there and played well, it'd be a different thing from the fan base. Transitioning to the defensive side, there's been a lot of first and foremost, Minka's gone. We haven't talked since then. Minka's no longer here, but Jalen Ramsey comes over, and the Steelers ended up picking up Quan Thornhill in free agency. He seems to be a guy that, from all indications from reports from training camp and even in some preseason that he's been a part of, he seems to have been filling in pretty good. I'm not saying that he's Minka Fitzpatrick by any means, but he's holding himself. What do you think about Jalen Ramsey? Do you think it's a difference maker in the secondary? Because you have to account the loss of Minka. Does the addition of Jalen Ramsey overcome the loss of Minka and then some? Because I think that's what it has to do. And, what do you think about the defensive backs as a whole?
Well, it's their strongest room they've had in a while. Kind of shocked Beanie Bishop isn't on the active roster, just given I thought he actually had a decent rookie season. I'm not really sure what the whole deal is with that. But Minka will definitely be missed. I think Minka was somebody that definitely embodied the Pittsburgh Steelers name for sure. The last 2 seasons have been disappointing. It's not all his fault either. But Jalen Ramsey, him and Minka, it's not that they're this super far apart in age, maybe by a year and a half. But Jalen Ramsey's going to do a lot of things where he's going to play some outside. He's going to play nickel a lot. He can blitz the quarterback. They're probably going to use him at safety at some times as well. So it kind of gives them some flexibility in the secondary that they haven't really had. So that's a good thing. I still think Jalen Ramsey, I don't really know where this wash narrative comes from because he's definitely not washed. I still think he's a top 10 corner type DB type guy in the league still. But from his value and what he can bring defensively in more ways than just one spot, I think is something this defense is needed. Really, they've just kind of have had players solely in just specific spots, and you haven't really had a guy that's been able to give them a lot of flexibility, especially even during injuries and things like that. Minka a lot of times had to play linebacker just because our inside linebackers were dog piss and they couldn't stop a run. So it's not all Minka Fitzpatrick's fault, but there's also times Minka Fitzpatrick you could look back at things and you're really scratching your head what he's doing. There's a lot of communication. There's been a lot of communication problems the last 2-3 years as well. But I think with the Steelers defense, and again, it's not all on them. Their defense the last few seasons is on the field a lot. That needs to change. Now, even though they've been on the field, they still have been able to put together the last 4 or 5 years some good defenses. There's been a couple years they've been disappointing. But this year, I also think too that them not being happy with where their defense was last year, they are taking a different approach where they would rely heavily on either one, linebackers, or two, their safety room. Now they're relying on their corner room to match up with these wide receivers that are on their schedule, in their division, and different things like that. They would get beat a lot. Darius Slay, yep, he's a little older, but we'll see what kind of juice he has left. Joey Porter, this needs to be a step-up year for him. Jalen Ramsey's a guy that you can almost play anywhere, which is nice. So I think the Steelers are really wanting to do something different with their secondary and what they're doing, where right now Juan Thornhill's a Band-Aid, but they're very confident Deshaun Elliott carrying that torch back there. And I really just think the emphasis on that they feel good enough to have Jalen Ramsey as a safety, as a nickel blitzer, wherever that you want to put him at, I think is going to bring a different dynamic that the secondary hasn't had really ever. Now, that's not saying that this is going to be a top secondary in the NFL. I'm not saying that. They'll probably be solid, but I think just from that standpoint, they can't keep doing the same thing. And I feel like if you were going to keep the status quo with your secondary this year, we're probably going to see the same thing. They really needed to change some type of dynamic with their defense, especially with them keeping Terrell Austin around and different things like that, because their secondary wasn't good last year. It wasn't good. So they're looking at Jalen Ramsey, all that they can do with him. They're okay moving off Minka Fitzpatrick. They weren't going to give him another contract. They weren't. He's going to be 29 by the end of the year. Jalen Ramsey's 30. So, or just turned 30. So they're about a year and a half apart. So it's really not this drastic drop off. And Jalen Ramsey can do a lot of things that Minka Fitzpatrick can't do. Minka Fitzpatrick did a lot of great things, but the last 2 years, nobody knows where he's been. So we'll see if that changes with the Dolphins or not. But they needed a different landscape in that secondary, really bad. It was stale. It's been stale the last 3 years. And Deshaun Elliott did a lot of good things for them. So that was refreshing. But I just really think the value that Jalen Ramsey is going to bring to the secondary, they haven't really had a guy like that, at least from I can't really recall when they had a guy like that they had a star caliber type guy that really can play anywhere, not just a guy that just plays the outside corner spot and that's it. So I think that's going to be nice to see him kind of flashing around. Hopefully that's something that will work for them, but time will tell.
I guess what you're trying to say is that maybe perhaps for the first time in a while, 3rd and 12 and longer won't be a kryptonite for the Steelers defense. Because it seems like it's always like that's when you start getting nervous, when it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. I mean, the longer it is, the more of a possibility the opposition's going to get it. It's a scary situation. It's been for 3rd and long for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for the last few years. The secondary might be able to put a stop to that. I look forward to it. You know, I'm looking forward to on defense, just kind of staying there, you know, to the middle linebacker group. I think Cole Holcomb coming back and showing how strong he has been is going to be a healthy rotation when he needs to be in there. But I think Peyton Wilson, it sounds like he's taken a step up. I heard some of the reporters talking here recently about his, his talking on the field during like practice and stuff. That last year he was kind of quiet, trying to understand some things and take things in and trying to learn. And this year he's out there barking orders, telling people where to go and things of that nature. And so I'm excited for the middle linebacker group. This is going to be a good year. And I think depth wise, this defense has it. You know, it's been one question mark for the last couple of years. And for the first game, Their depth, maybe not necessarily depth gets tested, but the depth does come in injured. Steelers' Derek Harmon is going to be out for this game with the, I guess he had like some sort of knee injury. He should be back either the next week or the week after. Nick Herbig is up in the air right now with a hamstring injury. Alex Highsmith has been participating, so he looks like he's going to be a go. What do you think about the injuries and also the middle linebacker group?
Oh yeah, you made a good point. It's good that Cole Holcomb is healthy. That's going to help their depth for sure. Peyton Wilson, I think, exceeded expectations more than expected last year. Derek Harmon, thankfully, he's not out long term. People were freaking out about that. I mean, obviously, understandably so, when you're getting taken out on a cart and looks like he wants to cry. So hopefully he's back week 2, if not week 3. So that's a good thing. I'm interested with Yaya Black. He had a really good preseason game. We'll see how many snaps he gets to start the season. But if he can be a formidable piece and maybe be that 4th or possibly 5th guy his rookie year there on the defensive line, that would be awesome. This is a big year for Keanu Benton. I think this is his 3rd season now. So he really needs to kind of come in and be that. I almost want to say an anchor. Like I don't want to say necessarily like he needs to like hold the fort down and like become into this like Javon Hargrave type guy that he was for the Steelers. But he was what, a 3rd round pick, right? So he needs to really step forward. That there was some concerns there last year for him.
Yeah.
So he needs to really put a stamp on that, on his position, and really be somewhat of a force there next to Cam when Harmon's in the game or whomever you're bringing in and out. I think this honestly is, I don't know who I want to say maybe like has like this is their biggest season on defense, but I think he's up there. If Keanu Benton doesn't really move in a upward trajectory this season after 3 years, I mean, I know he'll have 1 more year left on his deal, but you might have to start looking somewhere unless Yaya Black is a guy that comes along. So I think this is a huge year for him, maybe the biggest year for a defensive player. I mean, you can make an argument that this is the biggest season for a guy like that.
Yeah,
I'm not too concerned with the injuries. They have depth there. We'll see if Nick Herbig plays, but he's limited. So I'm not really too concerned too much about their injuries. Derek Harmon, I think that against a team like the Jets, and then week 2 against Seattle, if he doesn't play, I think that those are things that they can afford without him. But I really want to see Keanu Benton really step forward and make a name for himself, that he's a guy worthy of getting a new contract for this defense, because they need somebody like that to really step up. Like I really think, I don't want to say like a Stephon Tuitt type S guy, but you know what, if he can give him a little bit of what a Javon Hargrave type guy did, just a little bit, give me half that, I would take that. I don't even want to say Steve McLendon. He wasn't really even that good. But Javon Hargrave, give me half of what Hargrave was here for 4 years, going into year 3, playing on a contract year the next year. I really hope that. I really think this is a big part of their defense if he's a guy that can have his best season.
I think so. I think so too. I mean, he's going to have a little bit lighter of a load to deal with, as the New York Jets lost Elijah Vera Tucker to a tricep injury. He's gone for the year. And a former Steeler, Chukwuma Okorafor, has been dealing with a hand. I hope he plays.
I didn't even know he was on the Jets.
Yeah, I didn't know either until I saw the injury report. But yeah, apparently that's where he's at. I don't know if he's a starter or not, but he's on the Jets. Huge blow with Elijah Vera Tucker. He's probably arguably their best offensive lineman. There, he's going to be out. He's an interior offensive line, so should lighten up the load a little bit for a Keanu Benton, Yaya Black, and Cam Hayward. Are you expecting to see Cam Hayward out there? He in his podcast, when asked, he said, "We'll see." Well, do you think he'll be there?
Yeah, he practiced today. I think he'll be there. He'll play.
Yeah, I think so too.
I honestly think he's being a freaking jackass. It honestly kind of pisses me off. But he the only reason why he's doing this for more money, he can say all he wants because the season he had. But the thing is, he's on borrowed time. He wants to try to make as much as he can before it's done. That's the only reason why he's doing it. And I understand, yeah, you know what? He had an all-pro season. Well, you know what? Then you shouldn't have signed a contract extension. You should have went out, played on the 1 year, had the all-pro season, and got the biggest deal where that you could possibly could then. I think it's just totally been unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you're telling me that then you might as well do this every year. You might as well do it every year where you have to change up his contract. You might as well. He just signed an extension last year. I understand he's not in the top 10 in terms of defensive tackles or whatever in terms of the market value, but it's like, dude, you shouldn't have signed a contract. You should have just played on your last year. That's on you.
Yeah. It would set a weird precedent if they would go out there and
I'm saying you might as well do it for everybody that does that.
Exactly.
That has a career year. Oh, you got to give him a bigger contract, you know? Like seriously. Like Deshaun Elliott just signed a deal. Okay, let's say Deshaun Elliott has a Pro Bowl season. Do I need to go redo his contract again? Seriously. No. So he's a freaking 37-year-old toddler. And that pisses me off. So he better be out there. He better be playing. I think that he has seen the backlash that he's gotten. It's like, dude, and is he not the guy that says, if you're not a Steeler, don't be here or whatever that he says? Is that not stuff he said to Aaron Rodgers?
That is.
So now everybody's a hypocrite at the end of the day. But if you're going to say that about Aaron, who took his time to sign, Aaron didn't even sign for the money. And so you're going to crap on him, but you're going to hold out or hold in or whatever because you want a whole new contract. You got a pretty decent one last year. Cam has signed, 3 or 4 contracts in his career? I think he's made out pretty well.
Yeah, he definitely has. I think he's going to be out there. I don't think he's going to hold out. I think he was trying to see if he can get some more money there with how much the NFL got this year, how much the salary cap went up. And he tried to throw his name in the ring to see if he can come out with something extra. Didn't work out for him. I don't anticipate them, giving him any extra money.
No,
he did sign a contract.
He was out there practicing. I think if he wasn't going to play, he wouldn't have been practicing today. Now, Chris Jones did a similar thing 2-3 years ago with the Chiefs. He didn't play week 1, and they gave him, but I don't think it was a contract extension either. I think it was a similar situation. So maybe that was something that maybe he was kind of looking at too, like, okay, Chris Jones did this. If I sit out week 1, I end up getting what I want, I'm good to go. But I also think too that probably with Cam Hayward, probably knows, the Steelers just might not budge on this. And also too, at the same time, Chris Jones is younger than the guy. Cam Hayward's 37 now?
Yeah.
So, Cam Hayward's got 2 more years, and that's about it. It's time to wrap it up. So, but there was a time where 3-4 years ago, Cam Hayward was one of the most highest paid defensive tackles in the NFL. You're not always going to be at the top of the list, dude, in terms of being one of the highest paid at your position. That's just the way it goes.
Facts.
So that's just stuff that has pissed me off, and I know people have been defending him. I mean, whatever, that's fine. It's your opinion. But there's a lot of people, too, I think, that would agree with the things I was saying. Like, bro, you shouldn't have signed a contract. You should have just bet on yourself, had an all-pro season, and got a contract somewhere else. If that's what you're all about, you're all about the Steelers mentality. You're either a Steeler or not. Well, you're completely going against that. You've made more than enough money in your career, dude. I think at this point the focus should honestly be trying to win here, which is something he hasn't done. And he has had 3 or 4 contract extensions in his career. Yeah. It's not a whole lot of players can say that.
It's not a good look either, just because also he's a captain on the team.
Yeah.
He's been voted as a captain again, and he's done some good work, and he's been a very vocal leader, and he's been out there doing the whole din stuff. So he's been participating throughout this. And so, to a certain extent, to give him his credit, he's been there. And I think that if he doesn't miss a game, he wasn't going to play much preseason anyways, if anything at all. And so it's not like a situation that would have been too much different than where he would have been. But if he does miss a game for this, it's that's when it starts to look real bad. And and it's not good. It's not good. But
he'll be out there.
This is considered a revenge game. You have Aaron Rodgers, former New York Jet for 2 years. You have Justin Fields, who is a former Steeler for a year. How do you think who has the bigger revenge narrative for this game? Is it Justin or Aaron?
It's Raj. It's definitely Raj. Devin, what's up, bro? It's definitely Raj. He wasn't. I for sure. He definitely wasn't satisfied with the way things went in New York, and I still think that I know that he has said that he's content not playing and that he's accomplished everything that he would want. You know, he's won a Super Bowl. He's a 4-time MVP. But I think too that he definitely has something where he wants to show that he still can. He still has something, and I think as well too with the way the Jets kind of cut ties with him. I don't think he really liked that. Where they flew him all the way out from California to New York and just to tell him that he's getting released.
Goodbye.
Yeah. So I think that was a little messed up on the Jets' end. I don't think either two. Aaron's not coming off in a way where he's being a control guy. I think that he's enjoying his time. He knows he has 1, maybe 2, depending how the season goes, left. He loves Mike Tomlin and everything. This isn't going to be something where he's controlling the organization. The Jets had zero leadership. They've had zero stability. Their entire franchise. They're still a mess. They're still a mess. They have a completely overhauled coaching staff. The Jets are not going to have it all figured out. Well, really, no team's going to week 1, but the Jets are all over the place. New quarterback, new coaching staff. You have, and the Steelers have some new guys on their offense too, for sure, and a couple new faces defensively. But the Steelers have structure. The Jets don't. The Jets' offensive line's a little banged up. I don't really see the Jets really coming out of this looking too strong. Justin Fields, this might be Justin Fields' last chance as well. This might be Justin Fields' last chance as a starter in the NFL, at least for now. He's been on 3 teams in 3 years, and I think that there's always been things to like, but he at age 26 now, I think is how old he is. Time is ticking right now for him, and if he doesn't grow or develop with New York in terms of being a consistent passer and what he needs to do to lead an offense as a quarterback, even if they have a bad record, this might be his last shot for a little while. In terms of being a starting quarterback, he's got the legs and everything, but from what we've seen so far, I mean, this is I don't even know, what is this, year 5? I think this is year 5 for him.
I think so.
Yeah. So it's you need to really put together a season where you have been able to develop your arm. You need to be able to develop to be precise with your throws. And Justin Fields, he's not that. I feel like every pass for the guy is a bullet pass. I feel like every pass that we see from Justin Fields is the same look and throw. So I hope he does well, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a one and done for him in New York either.
Could be. That's what his contract is, potentially could be, if he doesn't show up. You know, I think you're absolutely right on it being the bigger narrative on Rodgers, given the exit. You know, the Steelers were still trying to get Justin Fields. They were still praising him and whatnot. Well, it wasn't the same thing when it comes to the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And transitioning finally, last thing we're going to talk about are going to be the betting lines and our predictions. So
here we go.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-point favorites on the road, and it is a 38.5 point over under. So who's winning? Are you taking the points? Are you not? And do you think the Steelers are over under on that money, on that over under?
I'm going to take the Steelers to win and start off 1-0. I don't think it's going to be a beautiful game. I think we're going to see some offensive struggles here for the Steelers, just given the situation of new quarterback, new wide receiver group, kind of. We'll see. I think that there'll be some good things as well we see offensively. I really hope we see Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith involved early on. I think the running game's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So we might see a little bit more out of Rodgers than maybe expected the first game. But I'm picking the Steelers to win. I'm going to say they win 21-13, and I'm going to, let's see, if the under is, or no, what is it, 38.5?
Yeah, you're under.
Yeah, so we're under. So we're going to take the under on the total points for the game. Steelers win. Rodgers throws a couple tutties, and the Steelers defense
Scores in the chat, guys.
pretty much contains Justin Fields at the end of the day. Justin Fields will get a couple runs off, but I really don't think whatever Justin Fields' under is in terms of passing yards, I'm taking the under on it.
It should be a defensive game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They should be able to take control. I still think that it's early. There's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be some growing pains on all sides for the team, because there's a lot of new pieces in both sides of the ball, and Justin Fields can hurt you with his legs, and so I wouldn't be surprised, especially if they get into the red zone, if they put up a touchdown in some form of quarterback option, because you really have to play all three options with Justin Fields, whether he's going to hand it off, keep it and run, or throw it. He really has the dynamic ability to do all three. And so, it's going to make an interesting game for the defense on how they're going to want to play that out. I do think there's going to be some growing pains for the offense as well. I'm not going to be predicting any first drive touchdowns for this game.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers didn't have one all last year. I hope they get one, but if I had to put my money on it, I'd say they're not going to get it this year, this game. I think this year they will, but not this game.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many new pieces, there's so many new players in so many different positions playing virtually a new offense, because this offense has been designed and created differently for Aaron Rodgers than what it was for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson last year. So even though it was the same offensive coordinator, it's different plays, different objectives, different concepts that Aaron likes and loves and is more comfortable with. And so I anticipate there being some growing pains, but I do think that the Steelers are going to win this game. I do think they're going to win by more than 3 points. I was very close to what you said. I was going 24-13 Pittsburgh. Still the under. That's
still the under.
37. Yeah, I don't. That's where I was at too. I think Vegas got that right.
That too every season too, bro.
It's going to be a while before I choose the over, I think. Unless the Steelers go out there and week one just kind of light it up, put up at least 26 points, maybe I can start thinking that's still a pretty low bar.
Yeah.
It's a good bar, 26 points. But,
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I would too. And, if they can hit around there, then maybe perhaps I start considering the over here and there. But given the style of offense that the Steelers have ran, Arthur Smith likes. He talks about liking these, low scoring, hard nose type of football games. I can't feel that we're not going to see more of those again this year. And so
another year, folks, another years of mediocrity on offense then.
Well, just week one. I think that they do get better. I do think they do get better. And I think that the reason why they scored 3 touchdowns in the game to get 21 points here is, one, I think the defense is going to put them in position to do so. And 2, I think they're actually going to utilize their tight ends in the red zone in an efficient manner. I think Darnell Washington is going to actually be a threat down there. Aaron Rodgers talks highly of him and him being out there in the red zone. And so I do think that the red zone aspect of the offense is going to run through the tight ends and through DK Metcalf. I think not even Rand going to be thrown to. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's going to result in a higher percentage of touchdowns in the red zone for this offense. And so getting there, I think, is going to be the more so the problem. Kind of like that joint practice. It sounded like the Steelers did well in 7 shots, but in 2 minutes they kind of fizzled out right away.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised something like that.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like week one, like probably manage the expectations. Offense is definitely going to find itself at different times slow. It's a young line. Aaron's 41, and this is new for him. Though just because he's 41, and that's another thing too. Like I'm not really like an age type guy. If you can ball, you can ball. I don't care how old you are. I really don't. I understand. Right. Age is also reality, and when you factor in different positions in the NFL, usually once guys start hitting specific ages, depending on the position, different positions are different with their shelf lives. But if Aaron can kind of give them, if he can stay healthy and he can continue to move that ball, as I think he still has that arm, that's great. But really, the run game for me is really important to be able to see that open up for them earlier in the season, rather than I hope we don't see that open up later in the year. And that's something that does concern me as well. So we'll see. There's opportunity and potential there if they can utilize their tight ends well and effectively. If they can utilize the middle of the field a little bit with Aaron, that can be good. And if Roman Wilson can give them some production, and we can look at that and say, yeah, you know what? They didn't really need to trade for a Romeo Doubs type player. They didn't really need to trade for a Jacoby Myers type guy. Roman Wilson got the opportunity, and he's coming into that. Hopefully we can see that for his sake and for us fans, because Roman Wilson was a 3rd-round pick. So hopefully we can see that. But if we're not really seeing that, if Calvin Austin isn't really involved, things are a little messy, well, and it's going to be a little concerning. But I'm not worried about DK. DK is a beast. But really specifically, we need to see Jonnu, we need to see Pat, we need to see Darnell, we need to see Roman Wilson really transition into being that 3rd-round pick for them, being a key contributor. That's what we got to see in the first 4 games.
100%, and that's just to get it going, and because after that you're expected to perform at a high level, and the kinks to be out of there. Well, 100%. I'm going to be back on doing a live after the game. It'll probably be a few hours afterwards. I'm going to go actually down to where my father lives. He's about 3 hours away, 2.5 hours away. I'm going to go watch the game with him.
Nice.
And some of my other family members as well. My daughter's birthdays are pretty close together, so we're going to be celebrating it then too. So it's a big day for this Sunday for myself. So I'll be out there. But as soon as I get back into town and I can sit down and put the stream together, I'm going to do a post-game show after the game. So probably sometime around 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Do you have anything else planned there, Nathan, for the rest of the week?
No, I don't. If things are, if things go really well and exciting and stuff, maybe I might hop on with you in that. I'll let you know. But regardless, I don't really think that we're probably going to have really a set day necessarily, but we'll be doing this every week with the season being going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. And I'll be, like I said, I'll be doing at least 2 shows a week, a post-game show and a pre-game show minimum. And so Nathan will be joining me on the ones that he can. And so I want to say thank you to everybody.
Shout out to everybody. Good seeing everybody in the chat again. All 100%. You guys.
Hope Claude comes in with 20-17 game-winning late field goal by Boz.
There it is.
Still the under. And
still the under.
That being said, guys, go Steelers. We'll see you hopefully after a victory on Sunday. Peace out.